Hello, thank you for joining us at this hour. I'm Daniel Choy for Arirang News. South Korea's former president Kim Young-sam has passed away. He led Korea's pro-democracy movement and opposed the country's military dictators for decades. A state funeral will be held on Thursday following a 5-day mourning period. Song Ji-sun starts us off.
Former Korean President Kim Young-sam died just after midnight on Sunday of a severe blood infection and heart failure after being admitted to a local hospital on Thursday with a high fever. Kim was Korea's 14th president and led the nation from 1993 to 1998, ending decades of military rule, but ended his term a lame duck after accepting a massive international bailout during the Asian financial crisis in 1997. The Korean government on Sunday announced a 5-day period of mourning for the late president. Kim will be laid to rest at the National Cemetery in Seoul on Thursday, following a ceremony at the National Assembly.
The government has decided to hold a state funeral for late President Kim Young-sam in accordance with the wishes of his family and the law.
President Park Geun-hye, who is wrapping up a multinational diplomatic tour at the East Asia Summit in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, offered her condolences to the late president's family.
The presidential office expresses its deep condolences to the former president's family. May he rest in peace. The government will prepare the funeral ceremony with courtesy and respect.
Memorial altars will be set up across the nation, including the main one at the National Assembly and at Korean embassies overseas. Kim is survived by his wife, 2 sons, and 3 daughters. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Kim Young-sam has been credited with the country's democratization and for carrying out bold reforms. Kim Min-ji gives us an overview of the late former president's life from his time as a pro-democracy activist to his rise as South Korea's first civilian president in more than 3 decades.
Former President Kim Young-sam was elected the youngest member of the National Assembly in 1954 as a member of the ruling party of South Korea's first president, Lee Seung-man. In 1979, Kim was expelled from the National Assembly for anti-government activities and criticizing President Park Chung-hee, the father of current President Park Geun-hye. Later in the early 1980s, he was placed under house arrest on 2 separate occasions for a total of 2 years, which prompted him to stage a hunger strike. He served in the National Assembly again before winning the presidential election in 1992. Kim has been credited for his role in Korea's pro-democracy movement, where he laid the groundwork for a peaceful transfer of power after decades of military rule. He also had his 2 predecessors, Chun Do-hwan and Roh Tae-woo, arrested on treason and mutiny charges for launching a crackdown against anti-government protesters. Kim pardoned them both at the end of his term.
While he was president, he was a great hero who carried out reforms no other could imitate.
The former president was also praised for making the nation's financial system more transparent, despite later being criticized for accepting a bailout from the IMF in the aftermath of the 1997-98 Asian financial crisis. He also implemented a policy requiring people to use their real names when making financial transactions, as well as ordering high-level public officials to reveal their assets.
He was a great figure who contributed to the history of democracy in Korea. We must honor and carry on the spirit of his philosophy of democracy.
Kim was born into a rich fishing family on December 20, 1927, on Gajay Island off the southeastern coast of Korea, while the country was still under Japanese colonial rule. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Moving on. South Korea's President Park Geun-hye met with her ASEAN counterparts and other regional leaders in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Today, their leaders once again denounced the spread of global terrorism. Hwang Sung reports from Kuala Lumpur.
In one voice, President Park and other regional leaders once again strongly denounced terrorism, this time at the East Asia Summit on Sunday in the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur. The annual meeting comprises 10 ASEAN nations and its 8 dialogue partners and focuses on regional and global issues. It's the latest in a series of multilateral meetings, including the G20 and APEC summits that have been dominated by the attacks in the French capital and elsewhere in recent weeks. Noting the advancement of North Korea's nuclear capability, President Park reiterated her call for regional support in ending the regime's nuclear ambitions, saying it's key to regional peace and stability. Also on the agenda was the contentious issue of the South China Sea. China has been building artificial islands in the region, resulting in friction with the United States and some Southeast Asian countries that have also claimed territory in the waters. Noting that the South China Sea is a key shipping route for South Korea, President Park stressed the need for securing both freedom of navigation and freedom of flight in the area.
President Park expressed the hope of seeing all claimants abide by the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea and other non-military pledges to contribute to the peace and security of the South China Sea.
Following the EAS meeting, the South Korean leader held her first ice-breaking summit with Australia's new Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull and held separate talks with their ASEAN counterparts. With that, President Park has now wrapped up her 10-day tour, which also took her to Turkey and the Philippines for a string of multilateral summits. She is set to leave for Seoul late Sunday night. Hwang Sang-hee, Arirang News, Kuala Lumpur.
The top nuclear envoys from South Korea and China will sit down this week for talks on North Korean nuclear issue. Seoul's foreign ministry said Sunday South Korea's special representative for Korean Peninsula Peace and Security Affairs, Hwang Jun-guk, will visit Beijing on Tuesday to hold talks with his Chinese counterpart Wu Da-wei. The two will likely discuss ways to bring the communist regime back to the six-party denuclearization talks that also involved the U.S. and Russia, last held in 2008. This comes as Pyongyang seeks to improve its relations with Beijing by actively engaging in talks with other countries. The reclusive state has agreed to hold working-level talks with Seoul, slated for Thursday. As South Korea prepares to commemorate the 5th anniversary of the deadly shelling of Yeonpyeong-do Island by North Korea, Pyongyang says it will retaliate mercilessly if the South fires at its waters in the West Sea. A spokesman for the regime's southwestern military unit said South Korea is, quote, scheming to attack North Korean waters again. In a separate report, the North's state-run Korean Central News Agency said if Seoul truly respects the deal signed on August 25th this year to defuse military tensions, the South must behave accordingly. On November 23, 2010, North Korea fired scores of artillery rounds and rockets on the island, located just south of the de facto inter-Korean sea border. It was the communist state's first attack on the South Korea since the Korean War. A memorial service commemorating the Yeonpyeong-do attack is scheduled for Monday at the War Memorial in Seoul. Belgium is on high alert as the manhunt continues for a Paris attack suspect last seen crossing into the country. Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel said the decision to raise the security level in the capital of Brussels to its highest setting was made based on information about a possible attack like the one that happened in Paris. He said, quote, several individuals with arms and explosives could launch an attack, perhaps even in several different places. In Brussels, armed police and soldiers patrol the streets, subways are closed, and many shops have shut their doors. The fugitive's suspected Paris attacker, Salah Abdeslam, crossed into Belgium the morning after the Paris attacks. External factors stemming from the U.S. and China could have profound impact on Korea's growth next year. A poll by Seoul-based Yonhap News Agency indicates the Korean economy will likely grow in the high 2% range next year. But uncertainties overseas, like a possible U.S. rate hike that could happen next month, may provide a ceiling. The slowdown in China was cited as the biggest threat to Korea's growth, which is highly dependent on exports. Korea's annual trade volume dropped for a 10th consecutive month in October, meaning the country will likely fail to hit the $1 trillion mark this year for the first time since 2010. Korea's two largest automakers, Hyundai Motor and Kia Motors, were the best-selling brands in Chile last month. According to Chile's Auto Association ANAC, Hyundai sold well over 2,300 cars in the Chilean market to come in at number one, followed closely by Kia. It marks the first time both Korean automakers did better than Chevrolet in monthly sales in Chile. However, the U.S. carmaker still sits at number one in terms of annual sales, having sold nearly 27,000 cars in the first 10 months of the year. Kia has sold over 23,000, while Hyundai has sold more than 20,000. The two Korean automakers have a combined market share in Chile of just over 19%. Now for a quick look at the weather before we go. If you're in Korea, you'll want to pack an umbrella on Monday morning as showers are expected nationwide. Seoul will start the day at 8 degrees Celsius and then get up to 11. Busan will be the warmest in the morning at 13, rising all the way to 16 in the afternoon. This week, brace yourself for wintry weather as sub-zero temperatures and snow are in the forecast for various parts of the nation. That's Korea for you. Let's check out the weather conditions outside of the nation, around the world. That brings us to the end of our newscast. As always, thank you for watching.